Now Alma said unto him, This will I give unto thee for a sign, that thou shalt be struck dumb, according to my words. And I say that in the name of God ye shall be struck dumb, that ye shall no more have utterance. So, you know what? Alma, who happened to be at the top of his debate team, when Korihor's like, okay, look, I'll believe in God. I'm happy to believe in God. I just want you to show me some evidence for this being. And Alma's like, fine, F you. You wanted evidence? I'll give you evidence. Try and be a skeptic now, buddy boy. And then Korihor's mute. And now when the chief judge saw this, government official, no laws against a person's belief, he put forth his hand and wrote unto Korihor, saying, Art thou convinced of the power of God? I just noticed that he wrote to Korihor. Why did he have to do that? If Korihor is mute, he can hear him. Anyway, art thou convinced of the power of God? In whom did ye desire that Adam should show forth his sign? Would ye that he should afflict others to show unto thee a sign? I mean, not that, like, the only way God can really show you a sign is to hurt someone, right? So what? You wanted him to hurt somebody else? Behold, he has showed unto you a sign, and now will you dispute more? Again, no law against a man's belief, but for some reason the highest judge in the land is totally cool with everything that's going on, and then taunts Korihor. Hey, you asked for it. Korihor, and this is about the time of the story where I sympathize with him, but I'm also frustrated because I feel like he's kind of a coward. And of course he's a paper. And this, I mean, in my opinion, not in my opinion, I'll just say it. This was written by Joseph Smith, and this Korihor was a character of Joseph Smith's. So really, I think I'm more annoyed with Joseph Smith about this than Korihor, because Korihor never existed. But we'll get into the historicity of the Book of Mormon maybe later. And again, speaking of this, I say he didn't exist because there's no proof that he existed. There's no proof that any of these people existed. Anyway, okay. Okay, so this is about the time of the story where I sympathize with him, but I'm a little frustrated because I feel like he's a little cowardly. So he writes on a piece of paper and says, okay, I know, I'm mute, and I know God could have been the only thing to do it, and okay, I knew God existed all along. I knew he existed. The devil told me, the devil took over me and deceived me and told me to work for him. What was that? I saw Goody Korihor with the devil, right? I saw Goody Korihor with the devil. And, it was so cold. Ow. And he said to me, okay, and the devil told Korihor, there's no God. Yea, and he taught me that which I should say. And I've taught his words, and I taught them because they were pleasing unto the carnal mind. And I taught them even until I had much success, insomuch that I verily believe that they were true. And for this cause I withstood the truth, even until I have brought this great curse upon me. I mean, we'll totally ignore, we won't even worry about whether or not Korihor's arguments were reasonable or not. It was the devil. And so Korihor asked Alma to ask God to rescind the curse. Right? Okay, so he's like, okay, I screwed up. You're right, you know? I wanted proof. This is proof. I've got my proof. Now, please take it away, right? But I think almost would be more proof, right? It's like, Alma's like, God. He's like, and then he's like, Alma's like, God. He's like, oh, good, I can talk again. Okay, but Alma, the prick that he is, said, if you can speak again, you're going to lead away the people again. So I'll let God decide. How does prayer work, anyway, right? Okay, and so Korihor, surprise, continues to be mute, and he has to beg for his food. So what happened to Korihor? Okay, so what happened to Korihor is published, and a proclamation was sent to everyone by the chief judge saying, those of you who believed Korihor, you need to repent, otherwise the same judgments would come to you. Again, no law in the land saying what you believe, but God's involved in the government enough that it'll still punish you if you don't believe what everybody else believes. But don't worry, you know, this is not a threat or a fear tactic. So they were all convinced that Korihor was wicked, so they all converted back, and this put an end to the iniquity after the manner of Korihor. And Korihor, sorry, it's a hard name to say, did go about from house to house, begging food for his support. Korihor's living on the streets. Korihor's homeless, to the point where he has to beg for his food. And guess what? God and Alma and the government did that. So one day, he's in a group of people that are called the Zoramites. And it says, and he was run upon and trodden down, even until he was dead. And I did have a talk about this story with my brother one time, and he said, well, God didn't kill him, the Zoramites killed him. But Korihor would not have been begging for food and would not have been killed because he was there begging for food if it were not for God and Alma. And honestly, let's just say it, the chief judge, right? Okay, so the chapter ends with this. And this is why I think even more, God is like, I think almost in this statement. Anyway, okay. And thus we see the end of him who perverteth the ways of the Lord. And thus we see that the devil will not support his children at the last day, but doth speedily drag them down to hell. Which sounds like a threat if there ever was one, and how ironic, because it was God that got him there, not the devil. The devil got him preaching. God was like, F you, mother effer. I'm not sure how much profanity I want to have on here. So F, that's what it is today. Okay, so that is the story of Korihor, and those are my thoughts, and those are my frustrations. And I do think it's interesting that, so he's deaf and he's begging, or no, he's not deaf, he's mute and he's begging for food. And then the chief judge is like, so anybody else who agrees with him? You're going to be begging and mute. And the same judgment will come to you, right? Okay. And so, first of all, we're in a righteous people and they're not taking care of their poor, which for some reason does not sound very Christian to me. Wow, why? And the most righteous guy there ended up causing Korihor to die, right? And so then they say everybody else, fear tactic, everybody else is gonna end up having the same punishment if you agree with him. How does that translate to, like, now? You know? Because I read this. I was like, my parents are amazing people. But when you give a book of Mormon to someone before they can read, before they can really understand what they're reading, that would be brainwashing, since they don't have an opportunity to actually look at it before they have to actually look at all of the information objectively before they have information already coming into their brains, right? And so I was reading this and I was like, oh, Korihor, he's such a jerk, you know? He thinks that God doesn't exist. What a jerk. He's trying to tempt God. What a jerk. And so I'd already read it. I had already understood it under what God wanted me to understand it. And then I turned my back on it and am now, I mean, you know, if I was in a group of atheists, I wouldn't be like, or if I was in a group of theists, I wouldn't be like, here's my great friend Korihor, and he is going to explain all of the arguments for God's non-existence. But Korihor, I feel like he does have some legitimacy behind some of his arguments, and I agree with him to an extent. Does that mean one day I'm going to be mute and begging? Like, how far does that curse go? You know what I mean? Like, eventually God, like, cut off a time limit? Or should I... Because, okay, technically I did hear it from Korihor, right? I heard his arguments the way he said them. Now, somebody else wrote them down, but I still heard his arguments, and after a while I did agree with him to an extent. Does that mean that one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, oh, I don't know how you people talk. I'm sorry. But, you know what I'm saying, like, I wasn't trying to make fun of mute people there, I was just, anyway, tasteless, Jack, tasteless. So, how far does that curse go, you know, like, eventually, God kind of, like, cut it off and was like, Okay, well, last year